Hey folks, welcome into the News 12 Now Desk. Thanks for joining us. We are talking more about Jimmy Carter here. As you know, for the past couple of days, the former president is receiving hospice care at his home in Plains, Georgia. We did have some live coverage out there yesterday with our own Richard Rogers. I'm joined by Will Rioux now for some local connections here. So, Will, who did you go out and talk to today?
Yeah, we talked with Judy Ansley, who's now Judy Candler, but she is a direct descendant of the Ansley family, who is connected to Jimmy Carter by a long family tree that we were told about today. So it's pretty cool. I had the chance to go out to the Rock House in Thomson. It will show a quick image of this. I know we have some video, but this is actually an original image that we have of that. Here's some video that we have of the Rock House too. They showed us around. This is actually the house that Thomas Ansley built in Thomson after moving from North Carolina in the late 1700s, and this is all connected to Jimmy Carter.
Yeah, and so we did actually, like Will said, we got the family tree. It was many pages long.
Many pages long.
We tried to simplify it for ourselves on a pen and paper, but to simplify it for you guys, we did step over to a whiteboard and we kind of broke everything down on how Jimmy Carter and this woman that Will spoke to today are related. So we'll go ahead and show that, and then we'll pop back in and talk a little bit more. So the woman Will spoke to today gave us this whole big family tree, pages after pages of generations of Ansleys and Carters, just all here in detail, how many children they had, when they were born, when they got married. We've simplified all that just into how Jimmy Carter and Judy Ansley fit together. So Will, talk to us about Judy's side first.
Yeah, for Judy's side, obviously Thomas Ansley and Rebecca Cox were at the top of that entire list. Then we had James. James was one of 8 children. He was the last child, and then you can see just generation after generation after generation. We finally get down to Judy, who we met today, who is 5th cousins with Jimmy Carter.
Yeah, and if we look at Jimmy Carter's side, Abel was actually the first child of Thomas Ansley and Rebecca Cox. Abel's daughter, Ann, married Wiley Carter. That's how the last name Carter came in, and they actually moved out of McDuffie County. So that's how they got to South Georgia. And then generations later, we get to Jimmy Carter. Like Will said, 5th cousins with Judy Ansley, the great, 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 great grandchildren of Thomas Ansley and Rebecca Cox. If that was all confusing, imagine how we felt trying to make that.
It took us about 10 minutes to try to piece all of that together. And again, you saw at the end of that family tree that Jimmy Carter and Judy are 5th cousins there. I was told that she is super proud about that. She actually has never met Jimmy Carter, but funny story, just for a little bit of background, you saw Ann, maybe you saw Ann on the Carter side. She was in the middle of the tree on the Carter side. She actually married Wiley Carter. Now, he was from McDuffie County in Thomson, and there was an altercation that happened, and then he ended up actually leaving his farm in Thomson and moving to Plains. So essentially, if they never got involved in that incident and moved away from McDuffie County, Jimmy Carter would have been from Thomson, essentially, in that family tree, which would have been pretty cool. Talking to Judy, she was like, "Oh, that would have been really cool just to go down the street and see Jimmy Carter, former president, walking around and stuff." Very connected to his hometown.
I'm sure Richard would have liked that too. So he had to drive all the way to Plains yesterday. He could have just gone on over to Thomson.
Yeah.
But Will, you talked about this Rock House here and the significance it has for this family. Jimmy Carter actually came and visited the Rock House a little bit. So what did you learn from that?
Yeah, so he did come and visit. He was actually, when he was running for governor, I believe it was, if I have that correct, he was coming down for something different. So I talked with someone who's with the Historical Society. Jimmy Carter was here with his Secret Service guys, and he's like, "You know what? It's not on the itinerary, but hey, I want to go check out the Rock House. It's part of my family history. I want to go do that." I was told that the Secret Service guys just kind of looked at each other like, "This isn't what we were supposed to do. This is not on the itinerary." But they did it anyways. They said if the bad guys don't know what was on the list and they don't know we're going to the Rock House, so they took a trip there to check it out, and just taking all of that in, really. They didn't go too much into detail about his actual trip, but he did make that visit there, which is pretty cool that he's been in our area. And involved in local churches as well.
That's from what I've heard. Obviously we weren't around for Jimmy Carter's presidency or his time as governor or anything like that. But from what I've heard, that story you just shared right there is exactly the type of guy, the type of president that Jimmy Carter was. So if you heard my interview yesterday with John Hayes over at AU, I told this story, but we'll go ahead and share it again real quick. A substitute teacher I had in high school was it is a crazy connection. Substitute teacher I had in high school, Mr. Wood, he was a former Secret Service agent, and he served with President Carter. And he said that was kind of what he did. He would want to, carry his own bags, his own luggage, which you can't do if you're the president. So they would give him empty suitcases to carry around. He would want to get out and walk through the crowds of people just to say hello and get to know people. And you really can't do that either when you're the president.
Yeah,
so
exactly. While the Secret Service guys are like, "What are you talking about? You want to go do all this?"
Just
stuff.
Going off itinerary and kind of doing Jimmy Carter's thing. So, Will, coming up tonight, we can expect to hear from you. What are you working on? What can we expect tonight?
Yeah, we're talking with Judy, taking a tour of the Rock House, like you saw some video there, just kind of explaining the significance of that and what kind of impact the Ansley family and the Carter family has had on our local area here in the CSRA, just showing the scope of his involvement and his roots in the entire state of Georgia. Like you said, random connections all over the place. It seems like everyone has something that they connect to with Jimmy Carter, and that was one of the things that his family was they're so happy about, was that he's so down to earth, so down with his family history and everything like that. So they're very proud to be a part of all of this, and obviously a sad situation with him entering hospice care, but they say he's lived a long life and a great life full of service, which is what they're proud of. So.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this house, you could tell it's obviously very old school.
Yeah.
You were out there. I mean, what was it like walking through the doorway and through the halls of this place, just knowing how much history and how much significance this place has to a former president and this whole area?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's history. It's just crazy to walk through all of that and say this is where everything started. It's led to a century of material, I guess you want to say history. Can't find the right word for it, but I don't know. It's just crazy.
It's hard to put into words.
It's hard to put into words. It really is. And unfortunately, that house had been severely vandalized. So the city of Thomson is working to try to preserve that and get it back to its original form, so they can make that a tourist destination for people who want to come down and see his history and where everything started. So they're working towards that. In just a quick story about the preservation of the house, Jimmy Carter, when he was running for governor, they're like, when I get into office, one of the first things I'm going to do is say, hey, I will team up with you guys if you make a history preservation organization or a historical society to try to preserve the house. I will give you the money to be able to fix this up, and then we'll take it over, and then we'll give it back to you guys, and you guys keep up the house and make sure it's able to be visited. And that's exactly what he did, and what they're going to continue to do here. It did not look like this. It looked way worse. So it's come a long way, and there's still a long way to go. But I think that it's going to start to pick up here very soon.
So Jimmy Carter's whole thing post presidency is his work with the community and service and Habitat for Humanity and building houses. Kind of started with rebuilding his own family house when he was still a politician.
Exactly.
That's amazing and such a cool story. Really, just these stories are nonstop when we hear from people who knew Jimmy Carter or people who were around during his presidency. Again, obviously we weren't, so it's just so cool to see this history through the people who lived it and the people who knew Jimmy Carter. If you listen to Richard's story from yesterday, Nick Veland had talked to some people who had connections with Jimmy Carter, and just talking to people ourselves, it's really, really been amazing. So, Will, we're looking forward to hearing your story tonight, and of course, we will continue our team coverage on Jimmy Carter as he is in his final days, what we assume are his final days in his hometown of Plains, Georgia. If you saw Richard's stuff yesterday, family, friends, peers, people who never knew Jimmy Carter all flocking to Plains right now just to be a part of that moment of history.
Yeah,
really.
Such a small population there too. So to see the nation, even the world, really to converge on Plains, Georgia, there, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool to see.
I think the population, I looked it up, was 557 in 2021. So my high school, I think, was 1,600 people. So just a tiny town with such a big impact. So again, we'll have more coverage on Jimmy Carter throughout the day and throughout the week, and we'll keep you updated as soon as we get more information. Thanks, Will.